Self-Actualized Selling. Mastering your internal state. This is the fundamental starting point if you want to earn life-changing money as a high-ticket closer. It's also the starting point if you want to self-actualize, if you want to actually unlock the next level version of yourself, the person that can build the life of their dreams. You need to start by mastering your internal state. This is how I earned over $100,000 a month in commissions as a high-ticket closer. I did that within 17 months of taking my first ever sales call, and I've now taken 4 other high-ticket closers inside my Unicorn Closer Mastermind to all earning over $100,000 a month in commissions, and they've all also done it within 17 months or less. The foundation is mastering your internal state. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how you are leaking money because you have not developed mastery over your internal state. And then I'm going to share with you how you can begin to develop that internal mastery and master your internal state. So without any further ado, let's crack into the video. So you can see here on my screen, self-actualized selling, mastering your internal state. Very briefly, you need to understand what self-actualized selling actually means. Self-actualized selling means you believe, you understand, you prescribe to sell more, you have to become more. You cannot just memorize tactics and word tracks and gimmicks and all of these sleazy, slimy, fake tonalities, memorize scripted questions. You actually have to become the next level version of yourself. Not only when you do that will you manifest, you will attract, you will magnetically create a higher level of income, but you'll actually become more as a person. And even though the likelihood of you making life-changing money without becoming the next level version of yourself is a big fat 0, let's just play devil's advocate. If you made more money, but you are still the same old, outdated version of yourself, you will still feel unsatisfied. So imagine a reality where you can actually make over $100,000 a month in commissions. And on the process, on the journey, on the path, you're actually going to become more as a person. That is what self-actualized selling is. I have longer videos going into the spiritual side of selling, going into self-actualized selling. If you want to watch more on that, you can find those videos on my channel. Just type in self-actualized selling or the spiritual side of selling. Back to this video. Mastering your internal state. There are 3 different ways that you are leaking money specifically due to your internal state. We're not talking about leaking money because you didn't go into consequence questions or leaking money because, your pitch was terrible. Just internal mastery. I'm going to show you how much money you are losing because of this. And most salespeople, when they hear, goodness, there's 5 high-ticket closers that within 17 months have all earned over $100,000, and I'm only at 7 or 10 or 20,000. How am I going to 5x? How am I going to 10x? How am I going to 15x my income? Yes, getting on a better offer is one of those pieces. Selling a higher price point offer, very important. But you're not going to get on a better offer if you still haven't mastered internal state. And I'm going to share with you why that is here in this video. The first place that you're leaking money is when you actually get onto your sales call. So this is coming into your sales call. There are different levels of you. There's the best version of you, which is where you have access to all your faculties. You can listen, you can hear, you can read between the lines, you can think up probing questions, clarifying questions on the spot. You are able to execute anything that you've been training, even if it is the bullshit, fake tonality, memorized word tracks. At least you're going to be able to execute those things that you've been paying and wasting money to learn in the first place. But on top of that, all of the in real time shifting what you need to do is going to be possible because you are truly tuned in, you are truly present, you have got out of your head into your body, and even more from your body, you're now stepping into the prospect's reality. If you do not do all of these things, not only did I say the likelihood that you execute the little training gimmicky things that you're doing is pretty slim, but even if you were to learn the right way to sell, to actually read human beings, to actually understand human beings, to think up the next question based on what the prospect says, not based on what your next little gay script says. Probably shouldn't say that in video, but we're not going to cut it out, whatever. Anyway, you will not be able to execute what you need to do because you are in a low emotional state. So you literally have taken the 100% brain capacity that you have, and bang, you've shut it down to like 2%. You know, when people say, oh, we don't use whatever the percentage is, 95% of our brain. Well, you're not using 99.9% of it when you're on a sales call because you are neurotic, you are anxious, you're in scarcity, you are not patient, you get all emotional, you get all triggered by the prospect, and all these different negative, I'll call it negative Nancy, emotional states are robbing you of that individual sales call having the highest likelihood to close. So now I want you to imagine you've got sales call 1 all the way through to sales call 5 every single day. What is your close rate right now? Let's say it's 20%. Is that 20% you at your absolute best all day, every day on every single call? No, you know it's not. Let's just imagine you didn't learn anything new on sales, so you only know what you already know. If you were bringing your best version of yourself to every single one of those calls, what would your close rate be? Maybe it's going to go up from 20% all the way up to 30%. Well, that doesn't look like a massive amount, but that's actually a 50% increase in your income. 20% plus an extra 10%, half of 20% was 10. You've actually gone up by half all over again, okay? And so the reason that this is so important is that even if you spend money and time and effort to learn more things in sales training, you will be wasting the ability to implement and execute those things if you haven't started with the foundation, which is your internal state. So the first money leak that you have is what you know you're supposed to do on the sales call, and your ability to execute those things are varied by your emotional state. I'm going to say that again. You know that you're supposed to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And you know that. And if you weren't on a sales call and you're just talking to a friend or having a normal conversation, you would know how to execute those things. But all of a sudden, when you're on a sales call and you're like, oh my God, it's a prospect and I'm nervous and I want commissions, but I don't have any commissions because I'm poor and I'm not in the Unicorn Closer Mastermind, you then don't bring your best self. You bring a much worsened version of yourself, or many salespeople, quite frankly, they can do A, B, and C on a role play training. They can do A, B, and C in the Slack channel when they're saying, oh, I would say this question and I would say that question in that situation if the prospect said this. All of a sudden on a sales call, because I've trained multiple sales teams and scaled them to $1 million a month in cash collected and beyond. We've even got the unicorn closers I mentioned are cash collecting $1 million each as a high ticket closer. And one of the biggest things is that high ticket closers know what to do, but they don't do it. That's probably you. If you don't do the things that you know what to do, it's not a knowledge gap, it's an identity gap. And the foundation of your identity is your state. So you have to fix your emotional state, have to master it. We'll come onto how to do that at the end of this video. The second place that you are leaking money is in between calls, you do not reset to baseline. And baseline should be a neutral emotional state, but actually over time, if you're truly doing the inner work, you would be leveling up your default state. We call this default state inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. One person's default state there, a level 2, but a unicorn is a level 7. That's just their default state. They're always in abundance. They're always positive. They're always chill. They're always relaxed, etc., etc. They're always able to access their best faculties. And so what ends up happening for a lot of high ticket closers is that when they go from a good call to another good call to another good call, and then bang, they have a bad call, that bad call doesn't end when they get off the call. That bad call lingers like an old girlfriend in your head. And you keep that bad call's emotional state inside your body, which is now your identity, and you bring it to the next call. And so what ends up happening here is that instead of you bringing a fresh version of you to the next call, you end up bringing pretty much a non-starter to the call. And so this second piece here, when we're talking about this second place that you are losing deals, is not how you enter the individual call with the highest close rate. It's how you take your day-to-day quantity of opportunities and you shrink them down to a significantly smaller number. So if you had 5 per day sales calls, all of a sudden, after call number 2, you have another 3 that I'll just put a down arrow here. You have another 3 that you completely aren't even showing up to in the right way. And so if you look at that, that is a 60% reduction. That's a 60% opportunity cost in your opportunity. If you were taking 100 calls in a month, you have basically done the equivalent of only taking 40. Can you see how just changing the quantity of calls that you are having a realistic shot at closing can massively change your commissions per month? We haven't even talked about getting on a better offer yet. We haven't even talked about scriptless selling. We haven't even done any real deep inner work. You haven't done identity level transformation. You're just simply ensuring that you bring your best self each call that you have. And in between bad calls, you don't let it cascade into a whole day, or worse still, which I've seen so many times at high ticket closers, an entire week of bad calls. You've probably done this. If you have a call with a prospect that really triggers you and winds you up, you can end up having the next 3 to 5 days with a bee in your bonnet, all butthurt over the fact that one of your prospects said, "Oh yeah, you're a really good salesman. I know what you're doing." And you've got that bee in your bonnet for the next 4 days. And so the next, let's say 5 calls a day, 5, 10, 15, 20 calls are in the trash can. Before you even turned up to the call, you've already ruined those calls and thrown them in the trash can. So let's do a quick recap. The first one, the internal money leak number 1, is your close rate. Your close rate is going to go, if you have this internal money leak, your close rate is going to go from somewhere like 30 to 50% down to 10 to 20%. Okay? That is a lot of lost commissions. That is the life of your dreams slipping through your fingers. Not retiring your parents, not buying the car, not having the watches, not living in the house that you want to live in, not flying business class, not being able to live the reality that you got into high ticket sales for. You didn't get into high ticket sales to make 10K a month. If you did, you're a moron. This is a golden opportunity, and we don't know how many more years it's going to be around. You can make $100,000 a month in commissions if you do what I'm sharing in this video. If you're at $20,000 a month, that is an opportunity cost to not master this of $20,000 a week, $80,000 a month, or $960,000 a year. Let that sink in. You are flushing down the toilet lost opportunity money of $960,000 per year. It's $1 million a year, rounding it up. $1 million a year because you're learning tactics that aren't going to fix your bad emotional state when you get off a call. Tactics that aren't going to fix the fact that even though you're learning these tactics and training them and drilling them and role-playing them, when you turn up to the call and you're not bringing your absolute best self, those tactics aren't being implemented. They're not all being implemented. They're not consistently being implemented, and they're not being implemented at a level of quality that they're actually going to get the result that you want. Okay? So we could kind of say like this. This first one is quality control. This second one is consistency control. So what's number 3? Number 3 is the best one yet. Internal money leak number 3 is to realize that how you show up off your sales calls implements what happens on or in your sales career. I'll say that again. How you show up off of your sales calls influences what happens in your sales career. How you show up in the mornings, how you show up on your lunch break if you take a lunch break, how you show up in the evenings, how you show up with your friends, your family members, your parents, your community influences your entire reality as a salesperson. I'm going to give you an example. Many high-ticket closers know that to make real life-changing money as a high-ticket closer, you need to get on a unicorn offer, an offer that has great consistent lead flow, an offer that's a high price point, at least $10,000 per sale. Many of the closers inside the mastermind that are at $100,000 a month and more in commissions, they're selling an offer that's over $20,000. So they make double the commission per sale that most high-ticket closers make. So if we just rounded the numbers out, one high-ticket closer that's making $50,000 commission on a 10K offer would actually be making $100,000 on a 20K offer. Same amount of time in, same close rate, everything else kept the same. Make sense? So the thing that you have to realize is, why are you not getting on a unicorn offer? It's because I didn't put in a good application form. I need to master the whole send of Loom video. Yes, you need to have a good background. You need to look like you got your shit together. You need to know how to talk to a camera when you're doing a Loom introduction. But if you're in a bad emotional state, when you record the Loom introduction, even if you say all the right things, that bad energy and emotion is communicated to the sales manager or the high ticket offer owner. And they immediately just have the heebie-jeebies about you. They're like, I don't know, this guy's saying all the right thing, or this gal's saying all the right things. But no, I'm just not going to hire them. The second thing is that if you truly want to self-actualize in life and master your reality, build the life of your dreams, have the dream life, create abundance, move out of a place of scarcity, have options, do all the things that I mentioned before, you have to realize that there is a spiritual side to life. It's not just the tactics and the scriptless selling and all of those different things that are mechanics. It's actually the spiritual side of life. And the way spiritual reality works, to give you a very quick 30,000 foot view, is that what you manifest in your reality is a reflection of who you are. If you're in a down state, your reality is going to be down. If you're in an up state, your reality is going to be up. Simply put. And so when you want to get on a better offer, but off of your calls, you're constantly Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, and you're like, you're not going to get a unicorn offer respond to your Loom video. You're not even going to see unicorn offers in the Facebook groups. You're not going to see them in the WhatsApp groups. And you might not be ready to believe this yet. And that's perfectly fine. Some people are just not there yet. They're not at the point where they understand, no, the offers that are in the Facebook groups are just always going to be there, and the offers that are not there are not going to be there. No, reality is not one universe. Reality is parallel universes, and you instantly jump to the different parallel universe based on your emotional state. There is infinite numbers of realities. You won't get on a unicorn offer, and the members of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind will and do, because they've mastered their internal state and you haven't. So the third thing is, let's call it options control. In other words, options control. In other words, the options you have for the parallel universes. And I get it. This is going to sound very woo-woo to a lot of you. If it's too woo-woo for you, you're probably premature to be watching this YouTube channel. This is for people that are at a level of consciousness that is not fully enlightened. Obviously, they're not fully, up there with the levels of consciousness and spirituality, but they understand, yeah, there's more to life than just this Newtonian physics and cause and effect and, A plus B equals C. If you understand that, then you have to realize how significantly your emotional state is controlling all the stuff off of your calls. I'll give you another example. If you're off of your calls and you have a relationship and you're in a bad emotional state because you haven't developed the ability to control it and to master it, and you go and have a bicker with one of your friends or one of your romantic partner, or not one of, your romantic partner, Freudian slip there, your romantic partner, jokes, your romantic partner, then that will affect your sales calls. That will bring you down for all of your sales calls. So the point here is there is not a linear division between what's on calls and happening there and what's off calls and happening there. Your internal money leak happens all the time. How you come into the sales call, which is quality control. How you bounce from one sales call to the next, and whether you are emotionally clean and stoic or you have emotional residue, that is your consistency control. And then the options control that you have in your life is all down to internal mastery, or mastering your internal state and developing that. So hopefully you understand now just the sheer quantity of money that you are flushing down the toilet. I'll call this bad offer versus unicorn offer. And I'm being deadly serious when I say this is costing you $1 million a year. You're not watching this channel because you want to settle in life. You're not watching this because you want to get to 20 or 30K. Maybe you're telling yourself that right now because it feels like a realistic goal. And it feels like something that, is still going to be great and still going to change your life. But deep down, you're watching my channel, not one of the imbecile channels, because I can get to $100,000 a month. There's something inside of me that tells me you're different. You're not like the average salesperson that wants to memorize gimmicks and read off a script. You want to become more. You want to self-actualize. You want to become a unicorn. You want to live the life of your dreams. And so based on that, $100,000 is what's on the table. Where are you at right now? $5, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a month. So you are losing somewhere between $960,000, $980,000, and if you're at $30,000, $840,000. That's $750,000 up to almost $1 million a year. And again, you might think, well, yeah, I could get to $1 million, but like, it's going to take me years, man. No, 17 months, 16 months, 15 months, and 14 months. 2 of us at 17 months. That's how long it took us, the members of the Unicorn Closer Mastermind and myself, to all get to $100,000 a month in commissions and beyond. 116,000, 113,000, 109,000. So your reality can change very, very quickly, but it starts with you changing yourself very, very quickly. You will never be able to have quality control on your sales calls, no matter what tonality training you're doing, no matter what script you're reading, if you do not master your internal state. You will never be able to have consistency control from call to call to call per day, and day to day to day per week, and week to week to week per month. You know, closers get into sales ruts, sales slumps. You know why that is? Because they can't control their internal state. If you can master your internal state, a rut literally lasts you half an hour, and that's if you don't have a call coming up. And so you're a bit annoyed, you're a bit peeved off by something, you're a little bit tilted, as we say inside the mastermind. You're tilted off and you're like, kind of like a little bit stiff here. And bang, you're back in. You are locked in, you're ready to go, you're ready to manifest, you're ready to create, you're ready to serve your prospects and serve yourself, building the life that you truly want to build. So, if you do not want to keep flushing money down the toilet because of internal money leaks, how do you fix it? You have to do deep inner work. I'm not going to, sugarcoat that. But the foundation is a 2-step process that is my patented pre-call checklist that I developed as a high-ticket closer, and I built this under the guidance of my underground mentor. And that is called a pre-call checklist, which if I take just a simple piece of paper here, this is not my original one. My original one is actually just over there. I don't have it in front of me. That is responsible for making me millions of dollars. A piece of card that is covered in blood, coffee stains, grit. I don't even know what else is on it. Maybe, because there's like green stains on it. I think that's like the green stains from all the dollar bills that I was like fun tokens in Wolf of Wall Street. I was like throwing all the dollar bills around because I made so much money. The pre-call checklist is responsible for me building the life of my dreams. So let me break down what it is for you. The pre-call checklist is a 2-step process. First of all, you have to know yourself. The number one way to know yourself is to get a mentor, someone that can actually point out your internal roadblocks and say, okay, you got this challenge, you got this challenge, you got this challenge. And they can do it very, very quickly because they are masters at reading human beings, which would be myself and my underground mentor. And that's what we do inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. We can personally start to build a relationship with you and understand what those things are that are holding you back in terms of evolving your internal state. Once you then know what those things are, you are then going to create a command sheet. And by command, what I mean is a series of commands that you're going to tell yourself, like brainwashing yourself or hypnotizing yourself or subliminal messaging that when you read are going to trigger you to get into a different emotional state. Now, how this works and the details of how to implement it, you are never going to fucking get access watching my free content. Get out of here. If you want to get access to it, join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. I'm going to share with you the simple steps. And if you actually want to try and figure it out on your own, you're welcome to do that. But if you actually want the shortcut, the accelerated lane, then join the mastermind. The other thing with this is if you do this wrong, if you try and figure it out and you don't get it right, it's not going to do anything. If the commands that you write down aren't crystal clear to attacking the negative emotional state that you're in the right places and flipping it, it just won't do anything. You have to learn the proper form, as they would say. It's like going to the gym, lifting weights. You see these people, they're just pumping, they've got like, fucking man tits and they still look shit even though they're going to the gym. Reason for that is because they don't have the right form. They don't know what they're actually doing to train and build the muscles. So going back to the pre-call checklist, you understand where your internal state is off, and then you have to be aware of those things, and you have to write a command that flips it. This is very similar to if I said to you, don't think about a pink elephant. Immediately, you see a pink elephant in your head. This big, bounding pink elephant that's bouncing across whatever, the road. You create words on your pre-call checklist that tell you to change your emotional state, but it changes your emotional state in certain areas that are specific and personalized to you where you are falling short. So I'll give you a very simple one. If you're the type of person that when you get on your sales calls, you get all uptight and all nervous and all anxious, you could literally write on a pre-call checklist the word relaxed. Now, that's not going to work very, very well because it's not specifically going into where are you anxious? Why are you anxious? What do you mean by anxious? And you have to actually run this discovery process, which I do on the closers inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. Plus, I have full trainings on bunches of different examples of pre-call checklists. My original pre-call checklist is in there. You can see that. And so you create these commands, but in simple terms, if I read a piece of paper before a sales call when I'm like, and I'm all anxious, and I read that piece of paper and it says relaxed, 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 and I'm just brainwashing myself, relaxed, 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 relaxed. I can bring myself into a relaxed state. But it's not as simple as just you're not relaxed, so say relaxed. It's that there is multiple places that you are showing up as a lower level state, a lower level identity, a lower level version of yourself. It can be things like you're showing up in scarcity. Maybe you haven't made a sale for a little while, which is a good reason that you should join the mastermind. So you can actually fix that. And therefore, when you show up to a sales call, you're in scarcity and you're in that sales breath mode where prospects can feel you're just desperate for a sale. What would you write on a pre-call checklist that would allow you to flip that? I have literally examples inside the mastermind of how to flip that. Again, you're welcome to try and figure that out on your own. You might be able to, but the potential for it to work at the highest level and to be able to unlock the best pre-call checklist, which is going to be usually somewhere between 7 and 10 commands. 10's pushing it, so let's say 7. Your ability to do that when you're somewhere between a 5 and a 30K a month closer, you haven't mastered your own identity. You haven't mastered understanding human beings. You haven't mastered the journey of self-actualizing, the hero's journey. Those are the skills that allow you to run the discovery on yourself, that allow you to identify those 5 to 7 commands. I didn't have these skills when I first was a high-ticket closer, hence why I did what you could do, and I invested everything I earned at the time into the Underground Mentor. And he had those skills. He could run discoveries on me, ask me some questions, and I was like, well, I'm showing up like this, and he would ask me a few more questions. And all of a sudden, I could see in 360 degrees and 4K resolution exactly, precisely, specifically what my internal money leak was in regards to my internal emotional state. And I would then start writing out these commands. And it was an iterative process because I was the first one to start using this for myself. I didn't have a Unicorn Closer Mastermind with dozens and dozens of examples. And so I was writing things out. I'd turn up to my sales calls. 2 out of 7 of them would really affect my state positively. The other 5 wouldn't really do anything. And over the weeks and the months, I built my pre-call checklist. And the key word is my, meaning it was personal to me. It wasn't just, copy and paste a pre-call checklist. Like I could literally take a picture of my original one, show it to you on this screen. You could write down the same things and it won't do anything for you because it is personalized what your internal money leaks are. One person's money leak is they talk too much and they're all in seeking social approval, which is where the money leak comes from, by the way. That's why you have to go deeper into the identity crisis. Another person's might be they don't talk enough. Like they're just so timid and shy and they barely say anything. They're not assertive enough. And so you can see that the variance is basically infinite. Not only infinite in terms of in one variable, like too timid or too aggressive, we could say, you could be anywhere along the spectrum. But then what about how many different variables there are? There's an infinite number of variables. So you have to have a real discovery run on you, see a bunch of examples, run those discovery questions on yourself, then write your pre-call checklist, then get feedback on it, which is what I do for the students inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. Go and use it, see which ones landed, which usually if you've written it correctly and you've got feedback, it will be 70 to 80% of the commands, the subliminal messaging that changes your state will work. And then you just refine over the next few weeks and months additional ones. By the way, also, just a quick side note, as you self-actualize, you change your pre-call checklist. So the things that you needed to remind yourself of will change as you start making more money, as you get on a different offer, as you move out of your old town, as you start living in the nice house. You have to change the indoctrinations that you're telling yourself to continuously ensure you're in your best version of yourself and you're evolving. So all of that to say, the foundation to self-actualized selling, to earning $100,000 a month in commissions, is to build a rock solid internal state. One that allows you to take all the things that you're learning and put them out, in other words, execute and implement them to the highest standard. That is controlled by your internal state mastery or lack thereof. Secondly, to be able to consistently reset from zero or a good baseline, a good default state, as opposed to always going down into this Eeyore. And as you probably know as a high ticket closer, taking 2 steps forward and then 2 steps back and then 2 steps forward and then 2 steps back. And why is that so detrimental? You can't get financing for the Lamborghini that you want or the $1 million house that you want when your income goes from $15K a month back to $5K a month, $15K a month back to $7K a month, $12K a month to $15K a month. You will never evolve your lifestyle until the minimal amount of money that you make every month is where you need it to be. It's not, oh, I made 20K once. 1 month I made $20,000 a month in commissions. You know this, but one of the things that's missing for salespeople is they don't have real mentorship. They get training, learn this, do this, repeat this, copy paste, which also doesn't work, but they don't have mentorship. And one of the things I'm sharing with you as mentorship is the reason you need to make more money and be consistent and do that by mastering your internal state is because you have to reset your minimum level of excellence. It's not your highest level that you've ever got to in your life that's going to change your life. It's the lowest level that your life is going to fall back to, okay? And then the final thing I shared for mastering your internal state and the internal money leak number 3 is that your entire reality off of your sales calls, whether you manage to attract, manifest, secure, lock in, and land a unicorn offer and many other things like that, is determined by the state that you are in day to day to day when you are off your sales calls. So those are the reasons self-actualized selling is superior, because it's truly changing who you are from the inside out. Holistic transformation from the ground up. Not trying to keep the version of you that is poor and stack on a bunch of tactics and memorize tonality. You will always fall to your identity, the true core of who you are. And I don't mean this to sound harsh, but if you're genuinely not happy with the version of you that you really are, and I'm not trying to be mean on you, but am I really the best version of me? Am I really who I can be, my full potential? If you're not, then anything other than self-actualizing should be a secondary goal. Making money, being a high-ticket closer should be a secondary goal to you actually changing who you are as a person. But the beautiful thing is, as I discovered as a high-ticket closer, if you learn the right way to sell that integrates self-actualizing and becoming more as a person with creating financial abundance, making money, serving your prospects, and getting fucking rich, you can have it all. That is what I want for you. You can have it all. The choice is yours. Do you want to continue to learn a way to sell that, quite frankly, is lying to you, telling you that if you just memorize this and you just do this, you will make money? You'll never make all the money you possibly can, because the way that you're learning to sell will never make you everything that you can possibly be. The foundation is mastering your internal state. This is what we teach and master in week 1 inside the Unicorn Closer Mastermind. If you joined the Unicorn Closer Mastermind today, 7 days from now, you'll have already gone through pillar 1, mastering your internal state, and you'll have the foundations laid to stop showing up to sales calls as a lower version of yourself and flushing the sales call down the toilet, to stop wasting 3 out of 5 of your sales calls at the end of the day because you can't brush off a bad sales call that put you in a bad emotional state, and feeling like the reality that you're trying to manifest just isn't coming, and you're just constantly trying to push a boulder up a hill to get things to come to you that you need to go to the next level in life. It doesn't have to be that way, but you're choosing that as your reality because you're choosing the version of yourself that you are right now. If you don't want the version of the life that you have right now, you have to change the version of yourself that you are right now. If you want to get access to work with me directly, to get around other unicorn closers that are all on this path to self-actualizing, to building an income of $100,000 a month in commissions as high-ticket closers, below this video, there is a link. Click the link, join the Unicorn Closer Mastermind, and I'll help you to master your internal state and to actually learn self-actualized selling and to build the life of your dreams.